This is a regular meeting of the Township of Washington. In accordance with requirements of the state and New Jersey statutes regarding open public meeting, notice of this meeting was legally advertised in the Courier Post and the South Jersey Times and posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Fire exits are located through the double doors on your right and your left. Please silence all mobile devices. This meeting is being videotaped. Anyone who does not wish to be seen on television may be excused. This will be shown on Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 36 every week. Sunday at 9, Wednesday at 7, Friday at 10 p.m., Saturday at 10 p.m., and will continue until the next meeting. Pat. Rally contingent. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, everybody, see it. Mayor Gattinelli has a presentation.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Wait, roll call.
No. I'm sorry, roll call. I'm jumping ahead here.
Tell me to go down and take pictures.
Ms. Donato.
Here.
Mr. Longfellow. Here. Ms. Pasqualone.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Fazio.
Here.
Mayor Gattinelli.
Here.
Mr. Platt.
Here.
And Mr. Gonter.
Here.
Okay, now, Mayor Gattinelli.
All right. Thanks, Jim. What up?
They're not in the bag. They're not in the bag. Just everybody calm down.
Yeah. May I ask Chief Gersick and Chief Dolgus to come up to the podium, please? Thank you. Last week, on May 1st, we had what's known as now it's going to be our annual Battle of the Badges. What we did was, we as the municipality, our police department and fire department came together with American Red Cross, and we had them come out for the blood drive. We had heard about this through another town in New Jersey, and it was a huge success. And we look at this at the end of the day, we do have a winner, but I think we're all winners at this point. Although Chief Gersick from the police department will be taking the plaque back to the police department this year, I'm hearing a little bit of rumble going on with the fire department, so I think they're going to come up next year and they're going to take it from them, but we'll see. But I just feel that it's a win for everyone, and I really appreciate all the residents that came out and did donate blood. It is something that needs to be done. There is a need for it. I unfortunately had to go through this with my mom more recently, and she actually had to get a few units of blood, so it actually touched my heart more recently. I want to thank them for everything that they did. They were great sports in this, and I appreciate all the residents that came out and helped support this. Thank you. We're going to swear in our newest sergeant. May I have Leonard Baldega and his family come up, please? You know what? I think maybe we should do it up front. We'll do it up here. Yeah. Excuse me. We would like to hold the Bible for you. Can I have you hold the Bible? Can you hold on to that? Can you lift it up just a little higher? All right, very good. All right, I'm going to ask you, right hand, okay. I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. I, Leonard Baldega, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the government established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I do further solemnly swear or affirm that I will impartially and justly perform all the duties of a sergeant of the Washington Township Police Department according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
Yeah. You have one? No, it's not mine. Somebody else.
You leave it.
So executive session, right? I have two over here, so.
Yeah. Hey, congratulations.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Nice job.
Thank you, man.
Congratulations.
Good job. Go 11. 10-16.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's fine. What's up, the general?
Mm-hmm. We do a 5-minute recess. Everybody wishes to leave this time. Doesn't want to stay with us today. Please, you can leave. It's up to you. Because we got people standing in the aisles.
Okay, we will be taking a 5-minute recess for anybody that wants to, doesn't want to stay in for the rest of the meeting. Okay, can I get approval for the bill list for May 9th, 2019?
Make
Need a
motion.
motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes, abstain to Fazio.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes. Get approval of the regular minutes for April 25th, 2018.
Motion.
Motion? Okay. Second? I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes. Approval of executive session meeting minutes, April 25th, 2018.
Make motion.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Recuse.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes. Approval of special meeting minutes, April 30th, 2018. Motion to approve?
All motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Donato?
Abstain.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Abstain. Resolution 116, resolution to reschedule introduction of the 2018 Township of Washington municipal budget. Due to a publishing error, this resolution is to be rescheduled. The adoption hearing, which had been scheduled for tonight to meet a 10-day notice requirement by the NJSA 40A 4.6. Motion to approve?
And part of the motion, Council President, is that the actual public budget hearing be on Wednesday, May 23rd at 7 p.m., correct?
Correct. Get a motion to approve?
Make that motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes. Ordinance 06, 2018, ordinance amending the Washington Township Code pursuant to NJSA 40-55D-53 to estimate and manage performance and maintenance guarantees. This ordinance is up for adoption.
Mr. Perry, I'd just like to note for the record that this ordinance was done as a result of change in state law about how municipalities can require bonding requirements for private real estate development, and this ordinance brings us into compliance with state law. The law was enacted and took effect on January 20th. It has been referred to the Planning Board. The Planning Board has issued a memo recommending its adoption and finding that it is consistent with the master plan. Thank you.
Motion to open to the public hearing on this ordinance.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now open to the public to discuss this ordinance. Seeing no one from the public, motion to close.
Make motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Need a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 6.
I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance is adopted.
Ordinance 09, 2018, ordinance extending the commercial industrial zoning designation to encompass the entire property known as Block 86, Lot 1.02. This ordinance seeks to extend the CL zoning regulation to the entirety of Block 86, Lot 102, known as 268 Herfield Cross Keys Road. This
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Council President.
This ordinance is up for adoption.
If I might, the ordinance is, as you explained, is inherent in its title. This ordinance was also reviewed by the Planning Board. The Planning Board has sent us a memorandum indicating that they have recommended the adoption of this ordinance, finding that it is consistent with the master plan. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to open to the public?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now open to the public to talk on this ordinance. Please limit your talk to 5 minutes.
Good evening, members of council, Mayor Gattinelli. My name is Victoria Benetti. I'm the chair of the Environmental Commission, and I'm submitting this testimony on behalf of the Environmental Commission. I will provide a brief summary this evening, and I ask that the entirety of my testimony, which I have provided to you electronically and in paper copy, be entered into the record for this hearing. This property, Block 86, Lot 102, sits in Tier 1 of the Wellhead Protection Area for Well 19, a critical area for protection of the groundwater feeding the well. Well 19 is approximately 900 feet away from the subject property. The well is very shallow, drawing water through an opening that is 65 to 95 feet below the ground surface. Soils are sandy, and transmission of contaminants to the well can be very rapid. We have already experienced contamination of our wells from land-based activities. Both well number 16 and number 18 have had aeration towers installed to remove contaminants. Significant local contamination events have also been associated with underground storage tank systems, including failure of valves, dispensers, alarm systems, and so forth, in addition to tank failures. Once contaminated groundwater is expensive to treat or to clean up. We know that from our experience. Protection of our drinking water supply is a matter of risk management, which can be most reasonably accomplished by limiting potential sources of contamination. Rezoning of Block 86, Lot 102 entirely to the commercial industrial zone would increase risks to the water supply by allowing more intensive land uses in the wellhead protection area than currently exist. Before acting on this measure, the Township Council should ascertain how the loss of Well 19 would impact the MUA strategic plan for providing an adequate and safe water supply for the future, and contingency planning in the event of an unanticipated temporary or permanent loss of other wells in the system. Additionally, it would be reasonable for Council to consider the cost of replacement of Well 19 if needed, including costs of land, well construction, permitting, and treatment plant. Extending the commercial industrial zone to the entirety of the parcel would clearly be inconsistent, in our view, with the master plan, recognizing that the Planning Board made a different recommendation. The master plan, in fact, recommends removing uses in the commercial industrial zone where that zone coincides with wellhead protection areas, and prohibiting uses that have the potential to release chemicals into the ground. The master plan also advocates for adopting ordinances that offer greater protection to groundwater supplies and aquifer recharge areas. The proposed ordinance does not present a reasonable approach to addressing split lot zoning. It departs from procedures described already in Chapter 285, Section 22B. Further, if a purpose of the proposed ordinance is to remove bifurcated zoning, then it would be more reasonable to change the entirety of the lot to the dominant of the current zone designations, the rural district, which currently comprises approximately 2/3 of the parcel. The rural zone would not restrict uses only to residential uses, as suggested in the proposed ordinance, but also permits agricultural uses as well as office buildings, senior citizen housing, and religious institutional uses. Those potential uses are overlooked in the declaration that residential uses are not appropriate because of the presence of power lines through a portion of the property. The rationale presented in the proposed ordinance for changing the zone to commercial industrial is not supported. The proposed ordinance argues that because the property has frontage on two key transportation corridors, Herfield Cross Keys Road and Freeze Mill Road, it is appropriate for CI zoning. However, there appear to be no other properties with frontage on Herfville Cross Keys Road or Freeze Mill Road that are zoned CI. Furthermore, properties on the corners of the intersection described are zoned neighborhood commercial, and we could find nothing in the master plan to suggest that properties on these roads should be designated CI. In summary, the proposed ordinance would increase the risk of contamination to the township's drinking water supply. The stated rationale for the zone change does not appear to be supported by the master plan, overlooks remedies provided by the township code, and does not align with existing zoning along Herfville Cross Keys Road and Freeze Mill Road. Permitting more intense land use for the entirety of the property, which are all of the uses permitted under commercial, industrial, and highway commercial districts, is contrary to the master plan.
Vicki, thank you, Vic. Your 5 minutes
And we
are up.
urge the
Vicki,
council
your 5 minutes are up, please. We have a lot of people that want to come up and
to
talk.
adopt the ordinance. Thank you.
Vicki, before you go, you have your statement, you have a written statement, and you say you want it entered into the record, correct?
That's correct.
So we're going to enter the entire statement, which is additionally have some exhibits and diagrams and so forth. We're going to mark that Exhibit P1, P for public.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vic.
We urge you not to adopt the ordinance.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this ordinance?
Evening, members of council and Mayor. Chet Nowayski, 15 Haynes Drive. Yes, this ordinance isn't about Royal Farms, but it opens the possibility of a gas station being put there. The argument that there are precautionary measures put in place to prevent gas leaks if a gas station is put there are irrelevant, and they are a fallacy because you will never remove the possibility of human error. There are historic examples of gas leaks from the corporation listed on the zoning application for the discussed lot that we are currently talking about. According to the Baltimore Sun, if I might quote from an article, May 2013, Royal Farms had agreed to pay $600,000 penalty for fuel leaks at 2 of its Maryland outlets. The referenced counties were Rosedale and Northeast Cecil County. Company employees had missed warning signs of leaks that because they had not installed and tested properly the equipment the state required at service stations to prevent and detect fuel leaks. They did not heed discrepancy in fuel inventory records that might have altered them, that might have alerted them to the leak. The Rosedale leak resulted in 5,400 gallons leaking over several months from underground tanks, resulting in fuel pooling in a private home's basement sump pump. Royal Farms had to pay that family $2.7 million. Clearly, there is too much human responsibility and the possibility of human error. The Northeast leak resulted in the state notifying all property owners within a half a mile of the establishment about the leak. The resulting Royal Farms having to take action in pumping and treating groundwater while state officials monitored the wells for a period in excess of 5 years. The leak was a result of not having double-walled underground piping, not tanks, piping, required by the state to reduce the risk of leaks. Those are historic examples of human error, along with our very own, if I might remind you, New Jersey Transit Station leak right here in town a couple years ago, which was also due to human error. Regardless of the possibility of leaks, there is also concern for light pollution from gas station patrons, increased traffic, and noise given the size of the facility, and surrounding homes would then have an eyesore to look at, which could possibly reduce their property values. Many homes across the street, and there is also a school facility in direct, proximity to the site in question. This potentially jeopardizes the community's drinking water without providing any consequential remedy. There are already 3 gas stations within a mile radius of the discussed block. To quote a resident of Baltimore, trading away lands that protect our very health and safety just for a quick injection of cash with little thought for long-term ramifications is not a wise course of action. Let's be clear about this, though. It's not that we don't want economic development. We don't want economic development that could possibly cause a toxic problem at facilities located at Block 86, Lot 1.02. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Anthony Panto, 14 Jacqueline Place. Thank you for giving me a moment of your time. I cannot more eloquently discuss what Vicki has put forth. I am not a scientist. I look more of myself as being a sensible person. So I'm going to discuss, I think, 2 quick issues. One is what Mr. Nowowski just checked on, and that is the proximity of the facility being in a school. I noticed the 10 variances that are part of the application. And of all of you know that the required distance that we have on the rule right now of a gas station is how many feet? 500, am I correct? Yes, 500. So the variance isn't bringing it from 500 to 450 or 400 or 250 or 200. It's 70 feet. 70 feet. We're taking the variance from 500 to 70 feet where preschool children play outside, will absorb the smoke from people hanging outside the facility, all right? 70 feet, because I can't go where Vicki can go because she's too bright, all right, on the that's a given. I saw that as a huge concern when looking at the variances that were listed and are going to be approved for this project. I did a little digging. In 2013, Wawa proposed the same project. An owner had a property in the Tampa area, and Wawa wanted to build on a wellhead. Wawa claimed it was a hardship if they were denied the application. They felt it was a hardship because they could not find another property that suited them along this I-75 corridor. The town disagreed. The town said that they didn't think that Wawa was serving a hardship as the project did not provide a large enough benefit to the community. They were building within 1,000 feet of a protected wellhead. In addition, I looked at some studies that were done, and I just thought it was kind of interesting that the Department of Environmental Services in New Hampshire in 2012 stated that the main sources of concern with respect to double-walled underground service tanks and groundwater contamination are vapor releases from the underground storage tanks and small spills of fuel that routinely occur when fuel is being dispensed into vehicles. It goes on to really talk about how the vapors are more concerned than are specifically for for fuel leaks. I would just ask again for all of you. I know you probably have your minds made up. Economic development is really, really critical and important to this town. I know. I'm participating on the Economic Development Committee, so I know how important it's absolutely needed. We've had issues with spills in drinking water in the past. We can't change that. We can only look forward and do things to protect it. In the Wawa issue, they made a comment that I thought was incredibly important, and that was the head of the Environmental Commission stated, why have rules if we're not going to enforce them? And my only concern is that we're not forcing this square peg into this round hole simply because we need economic development. And we do. But have we thought about, is there another footprint that we've possibly have presented to these builders? Have we thought about it? Have we thought outside of the box? Or is this just the easier route to take? You know, all of you may not be here in 10 years if an issue occurs. You need to think about all the residents and all the little kids and all the families that are continuing to live in this town if something does happen. I'm concerned about those few hundred kids who go to that school, all right, and that business owner who's been there for a very, very long time, who may not be able to sustain and live there and work there and keep that business going for much longer. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hello. Clock running. Steve Altamiro, Sicklerville section of Washington Township. Just to clarify a couple things. The one thing that what council is doing now is changing the designation for this zone. All these other issues we're now discussing have not even been brought to the zoning board yet, and I'm the attorney for the zoning board. Issues of wellhead protection, issues of closeness to other gas stations, all of those things have not even been brought up yet. We haven't even faced one iota of them. What I can tell you is that the zoning board voted to make that there was an error in the zone and that it should have been the commercial zone. That matter was taken to court by the owner of the gas station across the street, not by any conservation-minded group. It was the gas station across the street who obviously doesn't want a gas station to compete with them. They filed suit. We filed an answer on behalf of the zoning board, and Royal Farms filed an answer on their behalf. Judge McMaster determined not necessarily that the zoning board was wrong, but it was her opinion that this matter was more a decision for the council than the zoning board. So she ruled that the zoning board's decision was not appropriate, that ultimately the council has to decide the issue of whether this should be a split zone or whether it should all be in one zone. And again, those are the only issues. Nothing about wellhead. And by the way, I was on council when we passed the wellhead. In fact, I helped draft the wellhead because we got sued 4 or 5 times. And almost every time wellhead got brought up, we lost in court. So I don't know how much the wellhead's going to help us. But so currently the status of the case is that the gas station across the street won. So the zoning board's decision was overturned. The matter now has been appealed by Royal Farms, and obviously on behalf of the township, I'll have to file a brief on behalf of the zoning board. All of those briefs are scheduled sometime in July and August. So regardless of what happens here, the court still could decide that the zoning board's decision was correct, and then it'll be back into one zone again. So obviously, if the council votes tonight that it should be one zone, then that litigation becomes moot because the decision's already been made by the council per Judge McMaster, and then that litigation will go away. So, I mean, those are the legal issues we're facing now. You're right that there's going to be a lot of variances if this gets put in one zone and we go to the next step, which would be to go before the zoning board. I'm guessing there's going to be a dozen variances that Royal Farms is going to need to get in order to get any approval. So this project is a long, long way away. I'm going to guess that at every stage, if Royal Farms loses, they're going to file suit, and if the Washington Petroleum, who owns the gas station across the street, loses, they're going to file suit. So I suspect that the litigation will go on for some time. Right now, the current litigation, if it's decided it stays in a split zone, I'm going to guess will last close to the end of the year. And at that point, again, the court could change the whole situation. So, again, I understand people's concerns, although if Royal Farms can spill a little oil into my basement for $7 million, I'm all on board. I'll move right next door today. But Just joking, joking. It's just a joke. Easy.
Is his time up?
So, in any event, that's the status of the legal condition. Nobody wants oil in their basement. Again, just a joke. But that's the legal status. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Matt Gorman, 45 Cricket Lane.
Would you
Also-
say your last name again, sir?
Matt Gorman, Gormen. Also a member of the MUA. I just want to let people know, as far as the MUA, we don't have nothing on our board at all concerning the Royal Farms. Back in 2016, we actually had our engineers look into it because we have a letter stating Royal Farms wanted to develop there, and Vicki came and the Environmental Commission. So we asked our engineer to do a report to see if it was prohibited. He actually did a report, stated it wasn't prohibited, it was allowable, and that we could set restrictions once it did come before us. So at this point, the MUA hasn't had anything really to do with this at all. There's a lot of rumors out there, the Flint, Michigan, all this. Right now, that area is actually zoned rural, where the pesticides, if it actually started to be farmed with the nitrates and the pesticides, we could have more problems with that. So the MUA is always concerned about our water. That's our top priority. So again, nothing's been before us, and we will keep the water safe, and we'll make sure that if it does come, we'll put the proper protections, in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Mary Bem at Dew Court. I just want to say the leadership in our town seems to repetitively not learn from their lessons of history. We already have plenty of issues with contamination, and yet you are still determined to risk creating another one. It was interesting to know that I was told that this is only about zoning and rezoning the property, that it wasn't about a Royal Farms or a gas station. But now that that's out of the bag from our zoning, Steve, attorney, he said that it is going to be a Royal Farm. So I guess we can go with the fact that it is. Let me read you some other facilities that if that doesn't pass, what they could actually put on that property. Commercial industrial zone, other than a gas station, means we can have frozen food lockers, manufacturing, compounding, processing, packing, or treatment of the following: cellophane, ceramics, glass, pharmaceuticals, plastics, iron, steel, aluminum, leather, plastic, metal, precious stones, wood, cardboard, rubber, tobacco, textiles, and appliances. You can put experimental research testing laboratories there, carpet or rug cleaning, or dry cleaning facilities. It allows for a polishing and rust-proofing facility. There's a multitude of facilities that can use toxic substances on top of our water well in Water 19. And that is expected to be used in the future, as the MUA just said. So being that we are all in agreement that we do not, that we're talking about a commercial zone, and if they were to permit a gas station on there, we have a list from the Office of Informal Services of the state of New Jersey that say that we still have active contamination sites at our gas stations. There's actually 36 active contamination sites here in Washington Township. 12 are gas stations: Sunoco on the Fry's Mill Road, the Getty on Egg Harbor, the Pioneer on the Black Horse Pike, the Citgo, the Luke Oil. There's another Sunoco on the Pike at 42, Riggins, the Limited Gas Station, which is the old Shell, the Exxon, 5 Points Gas Station, Turnersville, Citgo, and 5 Points on Delsey. That's your proof that regardless of what mechanical prevention measures you put in place, it's narcissistic to say with confidence that a leak will not occur in a zoning parcel of land as commercial. You will pose not a possible threat in the future. Passing this ordinance opens up possibilities for construction of toxic facilities, and that action in itself is unreasonable and irresponsible. Under the current zoning, there are plenty of options to build. They include a farm, nursery school, daycare centers, kennels, municipal tower, water storage tanks. You could have senior housing, churches, professional or general offices, medical or legal offices, real estate, insurance offices, etc. Why is it the option of why can't we use Green Acre money to purchase this land and protect it? I also had the opportunity to speak to the preschool, and if you give me a second, he wrote something. He couldn't be here tonight, and he said, "We at Bright Beginnings at 315 Fry's Mill Road wholeheartedly disagree with the process of allowing a gas station operation in front of a preschool, knowing that it could possibly leak and destroy our water source and damage what did he say? That is already damaged in the name of a progress is unthinkable. Growing up with damaged water in our township, I tried to copy and paste it so I could read it. We at the preschool, they're in total disagreement with it, is basically. So he couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted to be heard. So I just hope you rethink it. It's your legacy you're leaving behind, and if you destroy, I mean, it may not happen for a few years down the road after it gets in there, but you are opening it up when you zone it for CI to a lot of different things. And there can be opportunity there, but you're just not looking at it in the right way. Thank you.
My name's John Blessy. I live at the Meadows condominiums on Atco Speedway South, usually called Fry's Mill Road. I've been there 29 years. We have in the Meadows about 300 families try to get egress and access to Fry's Mill Road how many times a day. I don't know how many difficult situations I have as a driver gaining access on Fry's Mill Road. So I would just like you to consider doing anything. Maybe Royal Farms can put an access on. Can't hear you. How about now?
Much better, sir.
Did anybody hear what I said before?
They heard you, but it was faint.
I wrote to Mr. Perry, and Mr. Perry referred me to Mr. Platt, and I appreciate what they've done for me as far as information. But you just can't allow seniors to try to access Fry's Mill Road. It's just very, very difficult. And what you're doing is putting them in jeopardy. If there's maybe an entrance on Phil Krosky's Road and not on Fry's Mill Road, that might be an acceptable situation. Anything? Okay. All right. Saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
The zoning board would make a decision on where it would come in from. That's not really being handled here, just so everybody's aware. That's for a site plan if it ever gets there.
Good evening, Frank Cianci, 54 Twin Ponds Drive. I just want to also put something to rest. One of the gentlemen came up and mentioned that it's going to be very close to the proximity of well 19. For all intents and purposes, there is no really well 19. It was drilled. It was never put into use 20 years ago or 25 years ago. There's not even a pump there to pump water out of the ground there. So I see all these things written and I hear people talking about it, and I just wanted to clear that up, that no water has ever been pulled out of that well that was drilled. So I just wanted to clear that up. Also, in that section of town, we were talking about, Vicki mentioned it could be used for agricultural. Well, we have several problems down in that area with nitrates getting into the water, and we're cleaning that up. So one of the things, yeah, we need farms and all that, but I am more concerned as an MUA member in providing water to people with farmland close to a wellhead than I am with a gas station if it were to go there. It's just my opinion, and that's what I got from our professionals. Thank you.
Al Lackeritz, Environmental Commission. One of the functions of the Environmental Commission is on major site plans, we review them. One of the details that we look at is the phase 1 site assessment. Basically, this is a very large volume investigation of all spills within a half mile, quarter mile, up to 1 or 2 more miles from the site that's being worked on. The two major sources of contamination, if you study these phase 1, are gas stations and dry cleanings. So if you're looking to put something down, the two worst facilities, operations, are gas stations and dry cleaning facilities. Thank you.
Just a little novella. Just a novella.
Mr. Perry, just for the record, I know that one of the residents talked about maybe changing the zoning to neighborhood commercial. In the neighborhood commercial district, a permitted use, not a conditional use like a gasoline station, is dry cleaning. So, you know, there's always an issue wherever you go with it. Thank you.
Your name, sir? Again, sorry.
I'm sorry. My name is Adam Warburton. I'm a young individual that lives in the town. I understand everybody's generally...
Pull the mic to you. Thank
I
you.
understand everybody's generally a little bit older and a little bit a longer resident in the town. As a young individual, this worries me a little bit because we put measures in place to protect the individuals that live in the community. To go against those measures, you're setting a precedent that anybody can come in and get around what you have in place right now. You're setting that precedent. That worries me. When these facilities come in, they put measurements in place. They put management plans in place to protect against oil spills and things like that, and these plans. These plans are never followed. When it comes down to it, the money is not spent. Take, for example, stormwater. Look at stormwater right now. What do our basins look like in town? Everybody submits a stormwater maintenance plan, but nobody follows it. Nobody has the funding or the money to follow through with that plan. You guys say the safeguards will be put in place, everything is going to be put in place, it'll all be fine, it'll all be great. But when that day comes, when there is a spill, and nobody has the money to clean it up, and nobody's enforcing it, the DEP can't enforce this. You know how large the state is and how big the DEP is, but they cannot enforce every single site. You're setting a precedent. You are changing the ordinance to allow any business to come in this area. It may not be a gas station 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road when you guys are not sitting here anymore. But as a resident, or somebody who's going to be a prospective resident in this township, this doesn't look good to me. This scares me. As a young person who's going to be drinking this water, who's going to have my kids drink this water. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Wentz. I live in Gloucester Township. I'm on the edge of what you're doing. I've been there for 30 years. I've seen a lot of change over the years. Positive, more negative change. Sorry to say that, but I'm just telling you the truth. You young people and you older people, better look out for your kids and your grandkids. That's what it's all about. What you're going to propose tonight or propose in the future, know what's important. Know what's important for the future of this township. Not this township, but Gloucester Township, Washington Township, and other townships. Because it doesn't just have a influence on just this township. What you do here affects everybody. And it doesn't affect, it goes on and on and on. You know, our water system, everything we do, it affects all of us. Look at cancer. Look at cancer in this state. It's our environment. It's what we live and breathe. Know what's important. Know what's important in life. It's quality of life. This is part of quality of life. Take that into account. If nothing else, take that into account for your kids and your grandkids. I'm fortunate enough to be a grandfather of 8. Hopefully you'll get there. When you get there, you'll enjoy it. But know what's important. That's a big deal. I don't care if it's Wawa or Cumberland Farms or whoever else comes in. Well, some of you younger kids don't know what Cumberland Farms is, but No, it's important. No, it's important. It's a big deal. This is all a big deal. This is our environment. Let's not take this lightly. Don't take this lightly. Any of us. All you, everybody. Don't take it lightly. Don't. You can't take this lightly. It's a big deal. This affects your quality of life. That's all. That's all. Thanks.
How you doing? Brian Bush from 9 Cobbler Court. Listen, I may make some enemies in this room tonight, but all I'm hearing is a bunch of what-ifs. If you put a gas station here, will it leak? Will it do this? Will it do that? But and the other lady said that, and I'm not looking to take any shots at anybody, but the other lady said we could put so many different types of facilities there. There aren't a lot of facilities or companies coming here knocking down the doors to build in Washington Township. There really isn't. So we have to look at the positives here. We have to look at the positives of what these Royal Farms can bring to the town of Washington Township. It's going to bring jobs.
Excuse me. The man is talking.
Excuse me? Who's that?
Sir,
don't ever accuse me of taking money. That's extortion. It's illegal. All right? So can I finish speaking instead of hearing your comments? Sorry about that. So we have to look at the positives of what this is going to bring to Washington Township. It's going to bring jobs for our kids. And, you know, what the gentleman said earlier, well 19 is not even in use. So why are we going to sit here and pick this thing apart that could bring so many positives to this town? Why? Why are we going to do that? Are we going to chase away every facility that tries to come into Washington Township? I mean, the mayor and council, they're doing a great job trying to straighten everything out, trying to bring different types of, different types of facilities here. They're trying to get rid of a lot of those loopholes. Right? Yes, they are. You don't know. You don't sit on the board. So, listen, stop going with the what-ifs and look at the positives, see what it could bring to the town. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to make a motion to close the public section so we can go on with a vote.
I'll second.
We got a motion, we got a second.
We can just close.
Roll call. All in favor?
I'm not in favor of this.
Say no.
Take a vote. Roll call.
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
No.
Ms. Pasqualone?
No.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Public portion is closed on the ordinance.
Thank you. Are you for real?
That's called tyranny.
Get the cuffs ready. Hey, Chief.
I have a motion.
Chief.
I have a motion.
Get the cuffs ready. I'm not leaving. They're not going on.
I have a motion
So
to
get the
adopt.
cuffs ready. No, you're not going to stop me from talking.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Chief, you want to remove him, please?
Chief, we can't let him approach like this.
Sorry, you gotta get down. You're going. You're going.
Please, Mr. Giancarlo. You are not going to stop me from talking.
Yes, I am.
We don't want to arrest you. Mr. Giancarlo, please. This is not the time nor the place.
Going to stop me.
Yes, I am. Okay? I just did.
No, you're not.
I just did.
No, you're not.
Mr. Giancarlo,
No, you're not.
this is not the time or the place.
No, you're not.
Please,
Giancarlo.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You are not going to stop me. Let everybody else talk. I'll pay taxes.
Mr. Perry, I suggest we take a 5-minute recess at this time.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Come back in a minute. Folks, we have heard the concerns pro and con on the zoning change. We're now going to make a motion to adopt this ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion to open back to the public.
I did not speak yet. Sir?
What motion's on the floor?
Motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll second the motion to adopt.
Okay, roll call.
I did not speak yet.
Roll call.
Ms. Donato.
No.
Mr. Fazio.
Hold on, what are we voting on?
We're voting on the ordinance.
No.
That's what he said. That's what the motion.
That's what I said until I was interrupted.
I seconded it.
And Mr. Fazio second, Mr. Perry motioned it.
So for the record, so that we're all clear, right now, there is a motion on the table to adopt the ordinance.
At the same time, I made a motion to open to the public.
Listen, don't let him confront me, Chief.
Ms. Donato voted nay.
Wait.
What
We're,
was I?
we're voting on the ordinance.
There's a motion on the table to adopt the ordinance. It's been seconded. Now, the council president has asked for if there's any discussion on the motion.
don't need you, Platt.
It's Mr. Platt to you, and don't shout out. Go ahead.
You'll get Mr. when you deserve.
Any discussion? Are you holding your vote?
Listen, we have a decorum for this meeting. If you don't like what's going on, I'm sorry. But we're not going to let this go on, and we're not going to let people run what they want to run. There's a motion to adopt this. We're going to see if it passes.
Ms. Donato withdrew her vote in lieu of she would like the council to have their opportunity to have a discussion on the motion. Mr. Perry.
I'll second that.
There's no need to second it. There's a
Okay.
motion on the floor. The next item on the agenda would be a discussion on the motion by anyone on council if they wish to discuss it.
Mr. Selby, you said that Ms. Donato
Yeah.
withdrew her vote. I know what you're talking about.
She thought she was voting to
Correct.
open the
Yes,
public
we've corrected the record. There's a motion to adopt the ordinance. It's been seconded. So now council, after hearing from the public, now would be the appropriate time to have discussion, if anybody wants to discuss this ordinance.
Does anybody on the council want to discuss the ordinance? Okay, roll call.
Ms. Donato.
Yes.
Mr. Fazio.
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow.
No.
Ms. Pasqualone.
No.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
The ordinance passes 3-2.
Okay, we'll move on to resolutions. The following resolutions are by consent agenda and only require a vote for all listed. Each one must be read by title. If any member of the council wishes to have one removed and heard separately, they need to indicate it prior to the reading of the titles. Anybody want anything pulled? No. Okay. Resolution 107. Excuse me, folks. We're trying to conduct a meeting here, folks. Resolution 107. Resolution approving large gathering application for Washington Baptist Church. Resolution 108. Contract for professional services by and between Breakpoint Law, LLC, and the Township of Washington. Resolution 109, authorizing cancellation of stale-dated bank reconciliation items. Township of Washington Parks and Rec account. Resolution 110, authorizing cancellation of stale-dated bank reconciliation items. Township of Washington payroll agency account. Resolution 111, resolution authorizing the cancellation of its outstanding checks. Resolution 112, resolution accepting a grant from State of New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety for Emergency Management Agency Assistance, EMMAA 2017. Resolution 113, resolution authorizing refund of tax overpayments. Resolution 114, authorizing a contract for professional services by and between Flasher, Greenberg, PC, and the Township of Washington. Resolution 115, resolution approving and authorizing a municipal lien in the amount of $2,800 on real property located at Block 217, Lot 7 of the official tax map of the Township of Washington for emergency service due to safety and security of the building. A motion to approve the resolutions.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Roll call.
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes. Okay, old business. Anything, Nick?
Nope.
Dana?
No old.
Sean?
No.
Angela?
No.
Do you just have any old business? No. New business. We will be canceling one meeting date for June, July, and August 2018.
I need to have some kind of decision on who
We
wants
need
to
a-
pick the
It
dates.
doesn't matter to me. Either one.
Everybody good for June 13th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
How about July 11th?
I'm good.
Yep.
August 8th?
Could we do the 22nd instead for that?
In
'Cause
August?
because I think I might be away. the
Everybody good for
It might be.
22nd?
It might throw it off. We either have to have one or the other.
So which meetings are we having? June 13th?
Is it better to do the end of the meeting, so we end of the month, so we have all the ordinances and
It's better to
resolutions?
do, whatever you're going to do is to have it
Yeah.
canceled
Certain
the first or the
intervals.
second, but don't alternate.
13th
It puts
and
too much
11th.
distance between for
Put enough
bills.
distance between.
The last meeting is the 23rd. Wouldn't it be best if we do it because then it would be a whole nother month until June 27th? If we do the second one in each month versus the first, because we have to look at the May.
So you're saying do the 27th, 25th, and 22nd?
Yes, just because of the way the May one falls.
That's fine.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
So what are the dates again, sir?
So we're gonna,
27th, the 25th, and the 22nd.
Wait,
Those are
what?
being canceled?
They're the
They're-
ones that we're going to
We're gonna have.
have.
Oh,
They're the
that's
ones that we
oh
canceled.
man, I just.
All right, so we're canceling the meetings of June 13th, July 11th, and August 8th?
correct.
Okay, you have any new business, Nick?
Nope.
Can we get a motion on that, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Make a motion to cancel June 13th, July 11th, and August 8th meetings.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Mr. Longfellow?
Yes.
Ms. Pasqualone?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes. Okay. Any new business?
New business and reports are just new business.
The only thing I'll bring up for new business is I don't know if anyone's reached out to the other council members, but I've had a resident who I've talked to in the past about a no solicitation ordinance. I know it ends up in being a lot of scams. I've talked with the chief of police and Mr. Platt in the past about this. It's something that I'd like to consider pushing forward. I know we considered it potentially a do not knock list. Right now, the only thing we have is that you have to get a permit, but this would be something a little bit more restrictive so that if somebody didn't want to be bothered by door-to-door solicitors, some people are worried about people scamming them, especially senior citizens tend to be targets of these types of activities. So that's something that I'd like to try and push through after the summer now that the budget's kind of resolving. I don't know if anybody else would like to work with me on that, but that's something I would like to do.
The other part of that is today I saw something in the news. Dish Network called a bunch of people on a do not call list that they had, and they're getting fined like $1,000 per person. So there's like a class action lawsuit against Dish Network for that. So even putting on a fine on top of that.
Yes, there would be. There's a fine in many of the other township ordinances
Yeah.
that have it. Tom's River's the one I used initially to start investigating this and looking into doing it. But there's Hamilton's another town who has it. There's a variety of other towns who have some similar measures in place. So
Just that deterrent. Yeah.
Right, and it would, some towns issue stickers to put on your windows so that they know that they don't want to be bothered. That way, if the solicitor does come in and get a permit, they get a list of residences. But that's something that we got to, I guess, look at from an administration standpoint to see what it's going to take to actually run a program like that as well. So just something that I'd like to start talking about a little bit more in depth.
Not a problem. Of course, the irony with the Dish Network class action suit was the attorney sued on behalf of a class that Dish Network was violating the no-call list, and they won the case. And then when they tried to call people so they can collect their money, people wouldn't answer the phone. So that's the problem with that case. But Sean, when you as I told you before, I'm happy to sit down and discuss those issues with you, and we have to. There's certain rules and regulations we have to follow, but it's a policy decision on the governing body. I'd be happy to draw an ordinance that everybody feels is fair and firm.
All right, thank you, Mr. Platt.
Angela?
Just that I noticed we were discussing at the Veterans Advisory Board meeting about the American flag and the lighting and stuff. So when I was looking at the flag, I noticed that there's a plaque out front. I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but the plaque is there to remember any members, any employees from Washington Township that had passed away. So I just didn't know if it had been updated. And I know that Frank Campbell, who we lost, is not on there. So I was wondering if we could, I don't know who to talk to about that, but to add Frank Campbell's name to that.
Absolutely.
And then any other members that we have lost from Washington Township employee status.
Absolutely.
Mayor, anything?
I don't have anything.
I do have one thing, Mr. Perry. It's actually good news for those folks that are familiar with the Watson Turkey factory, which is on Route 168. It's been an eyesore and it's been closed for many, many years. There have been violation notices that were issued to the owners of Watson Turkey Factory, and following that, because of violations of the construction code and our property maintenance code, following that, we had a demolition hearing with notice to the property owners, and the construction officer presided at that hearing and issued an order to demolish the Watson Turkey plant because, unfortunately, it is an eyesore and it represents a potential danger to the public. The period of time in which the owner has to demolish that structure is rapidly coming to an end. It was a 10-day notice. And I doubt that they did not show up at the hearing, and I highly doubt that they're going to demolish it. So administration, and on behalf of the mayor, we're asking that the clerk draw a resolution to be considered at the next meeting, authorizing the township engineer to prepare bid specifications to demolish that building. And if we have to go out and bid for it and hire a demolition expert for that particular building, then the township can apply whatever the cost of that as a lien against the property. And the demolition that we envision would be to obviously tear down that building and then remove the rubble and debris so it is a clear site and the danger to the public is eliminated. So that's what we're requesting, that the clerk draw that resolution authorizing township engineer to prepare bid specifications. I've talked to the township engineer throughout the process. They've done it before. They can prepare bid specifications. We go out to bid, and then the normal local public contracts law procedures would ensue.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reports? Nick, you have anything?
Nope.
For economic development, actually myself, Angela, and the mayor and Jason successfully interviewed a couple candidates, so we hope to reach a decision by the end of the week for the economic development officer. So that's what I have.
That's good news.
Yes. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. Angela?
Yes, just that on Sunday, April 29th, I attended the MS Walk, and I thought it was very successful. It's a great cause, and I thought it was wonderful to see how many members from the community were able to come out. The blood drive, I was able to also contribute for the blood drive, so I just wanted to say, again, congratulations to the police department and the fire department for putting that together. They did an amazing job. Some upcoming things for the veterans. Memorial Day celebration is on Monday, May 28th at 11 a.m. at the All Veterans Park. This Saturday, May 12th from 10 to 4 is Super Saturday. So please come out and support the park and all of our different vendors that we're having. Upcoming events also on Sunday, Sunday, May 20th is the Washington Township Public Recs Baseball Color Run. And then the same day is the Hot Rods Against Heroin Car Show. And then I just wanted to wish everyone Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Anything, Joanne?
No, I just want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day as well. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the public section. Please follow the public decorum posted, which has also been attached to the public agenda. and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Once you have completed your comments or questions, please take a seat. Council President will then ask if any member of the governing body or the designee wishes to address your comments or questions asked by the person who just spoke. I make a motion to open to the public.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now open to the public.
Good evening, council members and mayor. Maxine Cangelos, Whitman Square, 39-year resident. I heard through the zoning officer that there is going to be a change to a zoning ordinance, and I am very upset about it. The ordinance number is 285-199, which provides that boats can only be parked in the rear of a property. Supposedly now it's to be changed where they can be parked on the side. Over in Whitman Square, our lots are smaller. There are 800 homes in that development. Most lots are smaller than a quarter of a, what do they call, quarter of a
Acre.
Thank you, darling. And you know, it just can't fit it. Most boats are 8 foot wide. Add the trailer and fenders and tires, you have a 9-foot width. With lots from 10 to 10.5 feet from the property, that's going to be squished in there, I would say. This is a residential neighborhood, not a marina. The lots are just too small for it. It says if this ordinance passed, I would look out my bedroom window and see a boat. And I just don't think, that should be, when it be changed. I have no reason why. They do have the opportunity to put it in the back of the property. So I would like to have some input, into this issue. I mean, it really has to be, I think it's detracting the appearance of the development. So I would like to, have somebody look into it for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Just for the record, that ordinance, and I don't have my file with me. It's on for adoption at the next meeting. Ma'am, I did get an email from, I believe, is Cangelosi the last name? That's you? Yeah. I did get an email, so we're going to look into your concerns and see if that's actually an issue. And if it's an issue, I'm going to address it with Mr. McCucci, who's the zoning officer, and we'll come to some resolution that will protect the issues that you're concerned about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jocelyn Sawyer, and I work with Food and Water Watch New Jersey. We are an environmental organization that works to protect clean air and water for all and protect our natural resources in New Jersey. I'm here today with members of the Gloucester County Food and Water Watch chapter, and we're going around to towns in Gloucester County because we're concerned about our clean air and water and the effects of climate change and other impacts that fossil fuels have on our state. We have heard from this room tonight many residents of Washington Township also concerned about clean water and about the future, the world that we're leaving to our children. We're part of a coalition of 60 organizations in New Jersey that are calling for a transition of 100% of our electricity to come from clean and renewable energy in this state by the year 2035. From north to south, New Jersey is being bombarded with dirty energy projects like pipelines and power plants and compressor stations, which take a huge toll on public health and safety and also fuel climate change. Time is not on our side for fighting climate change, and without bold action now to switch to renewable energy, New Jersey will suffer from rising sea levels, from more extreme weather events like Hurricane Sandy, and devastating impacts on agriculture. In order to avoid the worst of these impacts, we must stop using fossil fuels by 2035, is what climate science is telling us. Getting off of fossil fuels and switching to renewable energy would greatly benefit public health and safety, slow the impacts of climate change, and create thousands of green jobs that we need in New Jersey. The technology to make this shift exists, and what's needed is the political will and decisive action. So we're asking towns in Gloucester County to pass municipal resolutions calling on the New Jersey legislature to halt fossil fuel infrastructure and make a real clean energy plan for New Jersey. Glassboro recently passed this resolution, and there are other townships in Gloucester that are considering it as well. Nearly 100 elected officials across the state have also signed pledges supporting these goals. So it is a movement that's growing. And we would like Washington Township to consider passing this resolution as well. I will provide you all with a copy of the resolution as well as some additional information about the potential for renewable energy in New Jersey and the climate science that I've mentioned here, and copies of the resolution that's been passed in other towns. And I or other members of the Gloucester County Food and Water Watch would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Make a motion to close to the public.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Motion to close the public.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Our next council meeting is scheduled for May 23rd at 7 p.m. Thank you.